Welcome to video 25 of Gamer to Game Developer Series 1. And in this video, we'll implement explosions. So we have a bunch of objectives to accomplish, and each of them will be quite quick. Now, the very first thing that we need to do is to download the explosion framework from the Unity website. Head over to the Unity website. Go to Support. Under Support, go to Resources, and you'll see here Unity Extensions, and there's the Explosion Framework. So we'll use it, so let's click on it and go to it, and download the package. Once you've downloaded it, just import it using Assets, Import Package, and Custom Package, and just import the Unity Explosions framework into your project. And once you've done so, you'll see a project called Detonator appear in your project. So just open that up and go ahead and open up the Detonator test wall. It's very professional, this project that's been made, the explosion frameworks, and it looks really neat, so you can actually see how each of the explosions look and what the effect is. Now, the explosion that I'll be after is called Detonator Sounds. There we go. Mostly because of, well, the way the appearance is. I just personally like it a lot, so I've selected it for this project. So I'll be using that. So I'll just stop playing here and go back to our project. And move on to the next step, which is to set up that detonator sounds for our players. So we'll set up our explosion prefabs for the players. We're on to our first step of Objective 2, which is to set up the explosion prefabs for the players. Let's go over to the detonator folder again. And under prefab examples, let's duplicate detonator sounds, so Control D. And now I'll move the duplicate over to our prefabs folder. And I'll just rename it Explosion Blue Player. I'll drop it into the hierarchy. And I'll start editing it now. So in the inspector panel, I'll change the size. So at the moment it's 10. I'll change it to 3 to make it smaller. I'll change the duration to 1.5 so it lasts a little less time. And I'll change the destroy time to 4 seconds. So the game object will remove itself after that amount of time. And I'll turn off smoke. So I'll just here uncheck auto create smoke, and I'll also turn off force. Though if you did have physics game objects in your game, then you would leave this checked. In my case, there are none. But of course, those game objects would need to be synchronized across the network, so they might need like movement update scripts, or just syncing across the network with just a network view. But it has to be controlled from only one player's scene, or one player's game, or maybe from the server only. Anyway, now I don't need the sound script either, as the sounds that are currently there, they're very good, but they don't quite match for example, for a player exploding or a rocket exploding. So I'll just remove the script. You can add the script back at any time. So you can just go down to the detonator folder and drag in the script, which is located under the system folder here. So detonator sounds, and you then just attach the sounds. They're all inside these folders. Okay. So that does it for our blue player. I'll now just hit apply to save it. I might just reset the position, that's all. And just hit apply. If we hit the play button, we'll get to see what it looks like, just briefly. So I'll just stop that again. I might just move it up just 1 point. Zoom in on it and hit play. Alright, so that's what our explosion effect will look like. Okay, so I'll just hit apply again, it's saved, and I'll now duplicate that prefab again, make one for the red player, so just Control D, and I'll rename this Explosion Red Player. And I'll just change the color, that's all. So I'll change the red to 240. I'll change green to 0. And I'll change the blue to 190. Okay. And I'll get rid of the explosion blue player in the hierarchy. And I'll drop in the red player one, just have a look at to see what it looks like. So I'll run that, and yep, that's basically the color that I was after. Okay, so I can just delete that now too. And we have our 2 explosion prefabs set up. So the next thing we need to move on to is editing the health and damage script. We're on to our second step of objective 2, which is to edit the health and damage script. Let's open up the health and damage script and make some pretty simple changes. So I'll add a new variable, and I guess I can just add a new one down here, down below, which is public game object explosion. And we're just simply going to attach our explosion effect to this. And next, all we need to do is just add in a little bit of code to instantiate that prefab when the player is being destroyed. So we have a destroy self function down below. It's an RPC, and it's the perfect place to put it. So I'll just put here instantiate explosion, which is that prefab. So explosion at the player's position. So transform.position and transform.rotation. Okay, and that is it. I'll just save that. That's our health and damage script edited. So now let's just go back over to Unity and attach those explosion prefabs to our players. So health and damage script is of course on the trigger game object. And you'll see here now there's a new bit here called explosion, waiting for a game object to get put in. So this is the blue player. So let's just drop in explosion blue player. Okay, let's do the same for the red player and just drop in explosion red player. Alright, and that does it for this step. I guess let's move on to the next, where we'll set up the explosion prefabs for the blocks. Our first step in objective 3 is to set up the explosion prefabs for the blocks. All I'll do is to just duplicate one of the player explosion effects. So I'll just duplicate, for example, the blue player. I'll rename it. So I'll call it now explosion construction block. And I'll change some of the parameters. So I'll change the size to 2.5. I'll change the duration to 2 seconds. And I'll change the destroy time to 5. And I'll also change the color slightly. So the red is 0, yes. I'll change green to 130. And I'll put blue to 255. Okay. And that's our color for our explosion construction block. So let's just drag it in and see what it looks like. Hit play. And yeah, that's basically what I'm after. It's supposed to look like an explosion and looks pretty nice to me anyway. Okay, so I'll just delete that one. Now I'll make another one. So that was explosion construction block. Let's duplicate that and call this one explosion air block. So I'll just type that in, air block. Okay, now this I just need to change the color. So maybe something on the yellow end. Okay. So 255, make it 250 green. And keep the blue at 0. Okay, let me give that a try. So I'll just drag it in. And hit play. And yeah, that looks good. Alright. So that's our explosion effects basically set up. Next, we'll go ahead and start editing the relevant scripts. We're on to step 2 of objective 3, which is to edit the server removes construction block script. Okay, let's open up the server removes construction block script. That's it right there. And let's attach, well, not attach, sorry. Let's put in a new variable. So I'll put this one here, public game object explosion. I'll just put a really brief comment here that the explosion prefab is attached to this. And I could just also put that in the health and damage script as well. Just since everything else is commented. Save that and go back to our script. The server removes construction block script. And we need to add a new RPC. So an RPC to actually instantiate the construction block explosion. And with the way this script works, it's the server that's actually going to instantiate that construction block explosion effect across the network. So down here, let's add a new RPC. So RPC I'll call this one, so void instantiate construction block explosion, instantiate construct, well, I'll just put it const block explosion to keep it shorter. And it'll require something, so I'll call that string block NME, standing for name. Now, we need to find the block. So when a block is destroyed, this script knows the name of the block to destroy. It knows which block to destroy by finding it using its name. So we'll do the same thing. We'll find the block by its name and we'll instantiate the explosion at the position and rotation of that found block. So let's say game object go is equal to game object dot find then block enemy. Okay, and then we'll have here instantiate explosion go dot transform dot position. So the go just stands for game object, and then go dot transform dot rotation. Okay, so that's the RPC setup. Now we need to actually make use of it. I might just put a comment here as well that find the unique block by its name, and then instantiate an explosion at its location. All right. So of course now we need to make use of it. So in the bit where we're actually going through the list of blocks to destroy, we will add above here to instantiate the explosion effect as well. So I'll write here the comment, the server instantiates an explosion at the location of the construction block. So off the construction block. Across the network. And that's simply network view dot RPC, the name of the RPC of course, and I just copy pasted. Who to send it to everyone, so RPC mode.all, and supply the term required, which is block name. Okay, and that's it. Our RPC is set up, so let's save the script and jump back to Unity, and let's go ahead and attach this. So in our block manager, we have here now for the server removes construction block script, that empty slot right there. So let's go ahead and drop in the explosion construction block. Okay. And so that does it for this step. Let's move on to the next step where we'll do the same thing for the server removes air block script. We're on to our final step, which is to edit the server removes air block script. Let's open up the server removes air block script and repeat what we did for the construction block script, so we can copy paste code. So I'll go ahead and copy this variable, plug it right in here. Then I'll go ahead and copy the RPC. I'll just change its name. So I'll just change that from construction block to air block. And next, I'll go ahead and copy the RPC, the usage of it, and just plug it in here. And I'll change the name of the RPC that's called. So of course, it's now this. Instantiate air block explosion. Okay, so that's it. We've done all that we needed to. Let's save this script and jump back to Unity. And let's go over to the block manager and attach the explosion effect for removing the air block. So there's the explosion air block, and let's just drop it in. Okay, we can build and run now as well, so let's do that. So using any player, I'll just move this up a bit, and let's go ahead and place some blocks. I'll change the weapon to the block eraser, and there we go. So we can see our explosion effects. Now let me try building the air block, see how that looks. Okay, I'll go ahead and blow it up. Oh yeah, that looks really nice actually. So it's a really high quality explosion effect that we downloaded, and the author who made it has really done a really good job. It really looks quite it looks quite professional, really. Okay, and our player of course will also have an explosion effect. So if we jump up into the sky and fall down, oh well, I had too much health there, so let me try that again. And once more, and there we go. The player exploded and I could see that up above. Okay, so I guess, maybe I should just run another copy of the game and see what it looks like with another player. Okay, so I've opened up another copy, and this time maybe I'll join as a blue player. Okay, and I'll attack the red player there, and I'll see them explode. Yep, so that's working just fine. I'll respawn here and attack the blue player right there. Okay, so that's it. So our explosion effects are working really nicely, and we can then go to our next video, which is going to be about rockets. So that's going to be a really interesting video, so I'll see you then.